So now it's time for Tools for These Times, the segment where we use 80s and 90s music together with practical psychology tools to help navigate modern life a little more consciously and try to prevent falling into worse situations in our mental health. So tonight's topic connects directly with the video we just discussed about regret, mistakes, and self forgiveness, and the challenge of building a healthier relationship with our own past. So the tonight's problem that I would like to address is being trapped by past mistakes. And that is something that affects people of every age. Sometimes it's a failed relationship, a failed business, a wrong career choice, a friendship that ended badly, a divorce, a risk we never took, or a decision that changed the direction of our lives. And years later, part of us is still replaying it. Not because we enjoy suffering, but because the mind keeps returning to the same question. What if I had chosen differently? What if I had stayed? What if I had left earlier? What if I had spoken up? What if I had known then what I know now? And over time, many people stop seeing those events as experiences they lived through and start seeing them as evidence about who they are. They stop saying, I made mistakes, and start saying, I am a mistake. And psychologically, this is where regret begins transforming into shame. So let's remember a little bit about the difference between guilt and shame. One of the most important ideas from today's live stream is the distinction between guilt and shame. Guilt says, I did something wrong, right? While shame says, there is something wrong with me. And those lead to completely different outcomes. Guilt can teach, while shame tends to paralyze anyone. Because if you believe you are fundamentally broken, what exactly are you supposed to build from there? And that's why so many people remain trapped in old chapters for years. Not because they haven't learned the lesson, but because they are still punishing themselves. So let's use music as a tool to remind us to apply this psychological tool that in this case is going to be applying self-compassion through perspective shifting. So let's see a little bit about perspective shifting and how can it helps us. The idea is simple. Instead of looking at your younger self through today's wisdom, try looking at him through the information he actually had at the time. So ask, what did I know then? What was I afraid of? What pressures was I carrying in those years? What experiences was I still missing? What needs was I was I trying to meet? Because people judge their past and their past decisions using knowledge that didn't exist yet. And that's like criticizing a first year student for not knowing what he learned 10 years later. It isn't fair and it isn't realistic. So here's a simple exercise that you are invited to do. Imagine sitting down across from your younger self, not the idealized version or the real version, the one who is confused, scared, and inexperienced. What would you say to him or to her? What would you tell him? You are hopeless, you'll never get it right, you ruined everything? Or would you probably say, you made mistakes, you were trying your best with the awareness you had. So please learn from it. Keep moving. And most people speak more kindly to strangers than they do to themselves. And that's something worth noticing. So, as we used to do in this segment, we choose two songs. One song will remind us about the problem, in this case with guilt and shame, and the other song will remind us about the solution, which psychological tool to apply to tackle this problem or to prevent this problem to appear or to grow bigger. So for tonight's problem song, I've chosen Shattered Dreams by Johnny Hates Jazz. And few songs capture the emotional atmosphere of regret as accurately as this one, because the song is not really about failure, it's about expectations. It's about discovering that the future you imagined is not the future that arrived. And that's where many regrets are born. Not from catastrophes or disasters but from the gap between what we expected and what actually happened. The title itself uh, says it perfectly. Shattered dreams, not shattered people, not uh, shattered identities, but or worth. Just dreams. What are shattered are dreams. And that's a crucial distinction, because many people unconsciously transform a broken dream into a negative judgment about themselves. And that's exactly what tonight's video warns against. Your younger self wasn't trying to destroy his life. He was trying to build one, but with the awareness he had at that moment. And that's why this song becomes such a perfect representation of the problem. It captures the disappointment without turning it into a life sentence. And modern culture often makes this problem worse, because we constantly compare ourselves against other people's successes, other people's timelines, other people's marriages, other people's careers, and other people's highlight reels. And when people do that long enough, their own history starts looking like a list of failures. But that's not because their life failed. It's because comparison destroys perspective. And many people who believe they've ruined their lives are actually comparing their reality to an imaginary ideal that never existed. So let's see what song we can use that remind us about the solution, how to tackle this problem. So I have chosen the song These Are the Days of Our Lives by Queen. These are going to be our solution song. And I've chosen this one because it's one of the most emotionally mature songs ever recorded. If you read the lyrics, what makes this song so powerful is that it doesn't fight the past. It doesn't deny it, it doesn't erase it, it doesn't also romanticize it. It simply acknowledges. And it acknowledges with wisdom, with perspective, and acceptance. And that's exactly what integration looks like. Not deletion, not suppression, but integration. This song understands something many people spend decades learning, that the past cannot be changed, but the relationship we have with the past can change. And throughout the song, there is a quiet awareness that time moves forward, that life keeps unfolding, new experiences keep arriving, new chapters remain possible, which is exactly what today's friend or I don't like to say content creator, but from this channel, Chef Nupal from the Gen Existent channel was describing. Starting again in midlife is not starting from zero. It's starting with experience, with perspective, with a hard-earned wisdom. And that can be an advantage rather than a disadvantage. So the journey becomes using the song Shattered Dreams, recognizing disappointment, recognizing mistakes, recognizing old wounds, recognizing the future that never happened, and then remembering These Are the Days of Our Lives by Queen, recognizing that life didn't end there, that experience still has value, that wisdom was earned, and that today's chapter deserves just as much attention as yesterday's. So perhaps maturity is not reaching a point where you have no regrets. Perhaps maturity is reaching a point where your regrets become teachers instead of jailers. Because every lesson you carry today was paid for by some earlier version of yourself. A version with less awareness, with less knowledge and less experience, but still doing the best he could with what he understood at that time. And maybe the goal is not to erase that person. Maybe the goal is to thank him, to thank her, because without him, today's wisdom would not exist. Alright everyone, that's been tonight Tools for These Times. I hope this has been helpful. Remember these two songs in case you can find them useful to tackle or prevent your situation to become bigger. we go on with a short break and we're going to move into our editorial